Hey guys, Zom Fox here, and today we're going to be talking about some massive reports regarding the 2025 United Football League season. The reports that mainly are needed to be discussed are a potential start date that is kind of being argued between the beginning and end of March, the potential that both the Panthers and Roughnecks could change stadiums next season, and biggest of all, there is zero expansion in 2025. So, without further ado, let's get right into this. This is from an article by Mark Perry on UFL News Hub, which, again, I talked about a couple weeks ago when they made that, the league is for sure expanding article a couple of weeks ago. I was like, hold your horses on that. I wouldn't be shocked if something else were to come up. And wouldn't you guess it, Mark Perry is now backtracking that and saying that the league is wanting to do 8 teams. But I digress. Again, this is UFL News Hub, so take it with a grain of salt, everything we find out today. We're going to be talking about it as if it is potentially true, but again, with it being UFL News Hub and not like Pro Football Newsroom and all that, take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. So without further ado, let's get started with the first thing, and that's the 8 teams staying put. Essentially, the league has decided, at least a lot of higher ups, that they are wanting to stay with the same 8 teams. And the reason is pretty simple. They want to view this past season as a mulligan in terms of the local attendance issues. This is something I've been talking about for really weeks now. Look, the thing is that people seem to act like the attendance for every single team is going to be like St. Louis. And people seem to think that adding a team to like San Diego or to Omaha is a guaranteed 20,000. It's not guaranteed basically anywhere. St. Louis, you lucked into a perfect situation at the perfect time to end up, having the attendance be as good as it is. But with these other franchises, a big issue is simply put just the ton of lack thereof marketing. Like, I've seen comment after comment about the Showboats, about the Stallions, about the Brahmas, how there's virtually no local marketing, how people in the city have no idea there's a team there. That is a very big issue, and the league needs to address that during the offseason. Yes, there's issues with them having seasonal employees, but they can always hire, other seasonal employees just for the offseason as well, or have players get some extra bonuses to go market locally. The fact is that marketing locally to increase attendance is a must do. I've talked about it in the attendance video a few weeks ago. People seem to think that TV deals are the only way the league makes money. No, attendance can get you a lot of money if you're selling enough tickets at a certain price. It will get you a very substantial amount of cash. So you need to actually worry about your attendance, especially from an eye test standpoint. If somebody turns on a UFL game and they turn on a Battlehawks game at the Dome versus a Memphis game, yeah, there's a very big difference between the two of them. So now, while there's issues about potential expansion, some people still want it. Is it forced by the government and all that? The league is basically saying that they want to keep 8 teams. Now, will they? We don't know. But should they? Yes. They should view this year as a mulligan. It's like if you get a house and you have a bedroom, right? You want to add a bathroom and a closet to your bedroom, and you want to replace the windows. The issue is the actual bedroom itself still has a ton of issues. The floor is messed up, it's sinking in certain places, the walls are a bit messed up and need to be redone. And it's like, why would you add a bathroom and a closet, i.e., 2 expansion teams, instead of actually fixing the issue, which is the bedroom? You fix the bedroom first, then you go add the bathroom, you add the closet. That's how you have to pretty much view the idea of expansion. Why add 2 new potential problems that could also make the already existing problems worse? Especially when you consider that I've talked about it before, really only Michigan has actually gone up in attendance. Every other team has been either about the same to worse. So you haven't seen improvement from basically anywhere except Michigan, and Michigan's improving from 5 to 6K a week to 7 to 9K, which is still huge improvement, but you're still not at a huge number. So, no expansion, that's a good thing. We don't want the league to expand until 2026. That is the most beneficial time to do it. That's when you'll have, more of an idea of what teams you want to bring back, where do you want to expand to, and you allow for attendance to go up this next season with local marketing. Now, the next thing is, of course, the Panthers and Roughnecks potentially moving. Now, I apologize, I didn't make it very clear about the Roughnecks. I did make it about the Panthers, but yes, both these teams could be potentially moving stadiums this next season. Now, the Roughnecks, I agree fully. Look, I'm not a guy in Houston, but everything I've heard is that nobody likes Rice. Whether it be just the drive to it, whether it be the stadium, everybody prefers TDECU. It seems very unlikely they're going to go to Shell, but in terms of TDECU, technically, the renovations are supposed to be done by the 2025 fall season of football. So either A, they'll be playing, in a still being renovated stadium, or B, the stadium will end up, finishing its renovations early. If those are the cases, you'd like it to be fully done, but if not, and they're still renovating some of the boxes and all that, it is what it is. But TDECU is a much better stadium than Rice. And again, even though it's not the only reason, a huge reason why the attendance for the Roughnecks is down 5,000 per game, a big reason is where they're playing, not just the quality of the team. But again, it's one of those where, is it for sure? We don't know. So it's a very debatable subject, but I think that going back to TDECU is a good idea, if possible. Even though, if I remember correctly, we heard issues about stadium leases and all of that, and now it's the other way around. It's kind of weird, but the point is, I think the league realized that Rice is not it. That's why they only signed a 1-year deal with them. And as for the Panthers, this is a big deal. Look, Ford Field to a lot of people is one of, if not the best stadium the UFL has, believe it or not. I've seen a lot of people always talk about very highly of Ford Field. And the attendance for Ford Field, as I talked about before, is up. Look, the Mike Mitchell tweet. Mike Mitchell knew the numbers for the USL last year but couldn't release them publicly. But when he was saying that the 7,000 number that they had this year was better than what they had last year, that shows that the league has done a good job, at least in Michigan, at improving attendance. The Panthers are a better team than last year. The Panthers are getting significantly more fans than last year. Here's the thing. I always talk about rumors and how you shouldn't fully buy into them. This is the one exception I'll have. I don't think the league actually likes Ford Field. Just think about it for a second. What were two of the biggest issues the UFL has had this season? The ticket failure of Ford Field. The tickets being delayed a couple weeks was not a UFL issue. That was purely a Ford Field issue. And then the other one. The Michigan Panthers still technically have a shot at the 1 seed. They're basically completely eliminated. They'd have to have everything go right for them. But we've learned a couple weeks ago, or last week, that no matter what, the home playoff game will be for Birmingham, because Ford Field already booked events for the potential playoff dates. So wouldn't you guess it, Ford Field back at it again, doing something it really shouldn't. Now, it also seems to be that overall Ford Field just doesn't care much about the UFL as a whole, whether it be booking events. We even saw that last year when the Philadelphia Stars and Panthers had to play a game in Canton because an event was booked for Ford Field, and they only signed a 1-year deal. So even though it's a great stadium, and I agree it's a better place to play than the other two we're about to talk about, in terms of being forced to and all that, you don't want to be in a place that doesn't respect you at all, and that's why getting out of there, I do understand it. The issue is the other places you'd be moving to, because the reports suggest that they're going to move to either the Big House or Spartan Stadium. Yes, I know they're saying the cities, but let's be very clear. When you're talking about East Lansing and you're talking about Ann Arbor, you're talking about MSU and Michigan. Now, here's the issues. These are open stadiums. These are not domes. You are talking about playing in Michigan, potentially the first week of March. Weather-wise, we already see consistently how bad it is playing in Birmingham during this springtime, where you have potential thunderstorms. Now you're potentially battling the cold up north. I mean, if you keep the late March start time, it's not as bad. It's still not great. But the other big issue is, again, look at these two stadiums. You're talking about increasing the capacity by a pretty significant margin. Ford Field is not a 70,000-seat stadium. Spartan Stadium is 75K, and Ann Arbor is 107. Now, the only good thing I will say is by having a team play in one of these two stadiums, you can really milk that student fund type of thing, or those student deals, where you give students special deals and all that. I know somebody who was at ASU when the Arizona Coyotes, this past season, the past 2 years, were playing at, their stadium, and they were getting insanely good ticket deals if they wanted. That's a way to boost attendance technically, but I think everybody agrees that in terms of the overall area, Detroit is the best area to get attendance. But if you're able to get benefited from, the student deals and all that, at least your number can be good. Because again, even though you'd rather have a higher average ticket sale price, if your number looks good, it helps benefit people's viewing of the TV experience. It still helps as a number standpoint, and you're still going to make some money. So, between the two of them, is there one I prefer? Not really. It's just kind of whichever one you think is better. Again, it's just pretty weird. It is what it is the best way to view it. Spartan Stadium plays on grass. Michigan plays on field turf, if that's a, big deal to you. I know a lot of people view it as like that. So in that regard, East Lansing would be better, I guess, as long as you're able to keep up with the field. And it is a slightly smaller stadium, but not even slightly, it is a smaller stadium. So it is what it is. It's a pick your poison if you do it. You either stay with Ford Field, which is a venue that doesn't really respect you, or you go to a massive outdoor stadium. Now, the last thing they talk about is going to be the start date. The start date is between March 1st and March 29th. This is a big deal. Now, we've talked about it before. The issue is in regard to future expansion and all that. If the league is planning to expand soon, which we assume is 2026, from what all these reports suggest, it says 2026 they're going to expand. How late do you want to push back the season? I've talked about it before. I think that everyone can agree that the true end goal is to never go past the 4th of July weekend. The USFL ended their season on that weekend. I think the league understands that's basically as far back as you can potentially end the season. So the more teams you add, the more games you're going to end up adding to your schedule. Now, at what point do you stop with the every team plays everybody at least once and go to the NFL route of, you play this division once, then you play it in 2 years and all that? We'll see. But in terms of that, it's exactly what do they want to do. In terms of right now, with these 8 teams, keep the same start date. Keep it that last week of March. Again, I heard people talk about, the Super Bowl hype and all that. When you put the league starting right after the Super Bowl, for those outdoor teams higher up north, especially if you do end up moving Michigan, makes those games very, very, very unbearable to go to. You're making them in a very cold place at a very cold time. And so that's already a bad thing. Now, of course, you also have the issue of you're watching the college football playoffs, the NFL playoffs, to spring football. Look, we're all spring football junkies here. We love this league. But we all agree that the quality of play is less than, let's just be honest, most college football playoff games and NFL playoff games, okay? So to an average person, going from the Super Bowl, which is supposed to be the 2 best or 2 of the 3 best teams in the league, to a week 1 game between, let's say this year's Renegades and Showboats, yeah, it's a bit jarring, isn't it? And it would make you not want to watch more of it. So if you have that month or 2 break, people who are on that football grind can get a break from it. They can kind of forget exactly how good everybody played, and then they're right back into football. Now, the other thing, of course, is March Madness. Yes, with the late March start time, you do have to deal with the biggest games. But when you start early, there's no avoiding March Madness, right? You're talking about games every single day, multiple, especially with the women's tournament continuing to grow as much as it has. You have 2 separate tournaments, which essentially are, if you have a game at that time, it's going to do bad in the ratings. We saw what happened in the XFL last year. The XFL got obliterated in the ratings. Absolutely tanked because of it. So you don't want to have to deal with that again. And because of that, let's be very clear here, that's why I think the league should start at the March 29th start date. Only deal with the last couple weeks of it. Start later. You have that hype of it being week 1, so you can potentially counteract a little bit of the March Madness hype. And with that, you can still open the door for potentially, adding on to the season. Instead of it ending mid-June, you can have it end late June in the future. Or then you can start pushing back the start date to around mid-March and all that. Now, there's a couple other issues this article really talks about, but I don't really think any of them are a huge deal. The head coach pay that they talk about is what it is, Head coach is wondering what they're going to get paid. Are they going to get paid more? Will some coaches leave and all that? There's a lot of stuff like that, and as well as, league officials being happy with the league, as we talked about before, and from what Mike Mitchell has said. The TV ratings and social media numbers, the social media numbers especially, have just been incredible, and the TV ratings have been better than what the league probably or did expect to have this year. So there's a lot of good things there. But overall, this has been ZomFox. If you enjoy this content, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're just less than 20 away from hitting a big milestone at 800 subscribers. So if you want to help out in the journey, especially since we are doing a giveaway at 1,000 subscribers, and as well, if you've been a fan of the channel for a while, think about becoming a channel member for as low as 99 cents a month. You will get an exclusive video every month and not about the UFL, as well as 4 team emoji, as well as many other benefits. And as always, guys, have a great night.